Welcome to the Positive Alteration podcast. It's a space for transformation, growth, and excellence. It's a center stage, it's a melting point. My name is Stallone-Obaraemi Samuel. I'm your host, and today we have an incredible guest who is refining and she's, in fact, redefining the way we communicate and we express ourselves. She's tech savvy, she's a goal driven educator, she's a diction and public speaking coach, and elocutionist par excellence. As a lead trainer at Speak Right with Abigail, she has dedicated herself to helping learners, both young and old, to speak confidently, with clarity, and with impact. You will hear all of that in the course of this conversation, her zeal, her enthusiasm, her fire for helping people to speak better. She's also a proud member of the Association of Diction Coaches of Nigeria, that's ADCN. And this organization is championing elocution for excellence and raising the bar for effective communication. Join me, ladies and gentlemen, and viewers, listeners, whether you're listening or viewing eventually, wherever you are getting this message from. Join me in welcoming the phenomenal Abigail Wilson to the Positive Alteration podcast. Abigail, it's such a pleasure having you. How are you today?
Hi, Stallone. I'm very well. I'm doing really fine. And how
Yes,
are you?
I'm very well. It's been forever. It's been like, when was the last time we met? It's been 20 years or a lot more.
True, maybe.
Yeah, it's a long time. It's been a long time. But it's
It's
good to
really
see
been
you
long. Yeah.
here.
Good
And
to
I
see you.
have been, yes, I have been following to a reasonable extent and seeing what you're doing in terms of communication. And so it's good to have you here today. And let's start with your journey. What inspired you to become an elocutionist? I have to be careful with this word because for me, it's a tongue twister, elocutionist and a public speaking coach. What inspired you to get into that space?
Okay. I've always had a flair for elocution. By virtue of my background, my family background, my dad, first of all, was a seasoned lawyer. And so he would want all of us to speak and talk, you know. Secondly, I had a good foundation when it comes to my nursery and primary school. I attended a good one, and the teachers there were really effective and qualified to teach. Then, of course, I would not forget to mention the fact that I come from a religious organization, or I belong to a religious organization where we are taught, we are trained on public speaking. So that helped me also a whole lot. And then, of course, I was privileged to be trained by an organization where I learned the patterns of English language. I also learned the arts of teaching in the classroom. So that's kind of spurred me up to action. I decided to go back to school, back to the university, and do a course to get a degree that would qualify me to teach. That is to say, to get a teaching degree so that I would be qualified to teach in the classroom, online, wherever I am.
Okay, great
So
stuff. So
that's me.
yeah, you broke a little bit, but I got the point. So you've got a good background from family to father, family, religion, school, everything really helped. That really underpins the importance of the family and the background that we have, where we come from, and how that can transcend into who we become, how that can transition, if you like, or can go from one point to another, show the impact of the family in the society. So you work with both children and adults, correct?
Yes, please.
All
Kids
right,
and
good stuff.
adults.
So yeah, so what are some speech challenges that you've observed across different age groups?
Okay, across different age groups, I've discovered that they all have challenges. I just want to pick one of the challenges for children.
Okay.
Children find it difficult to articulate some sounds, especially the dental fricatives. There are sounds that are called dental fricatives, and these sounds are made by digraph TH. You know, when TH comes together, it will make different sounds. One of the sounds it makes is the voiceless dental fricative, and that's the sound you find in words like think, mouth, okay? So you see that when you're teaching children sounds like this, especially for those who, for those of them whose incisors have pulled out, you know, by virtue of growth, they've lost their incisors, okay? So tell them to produce this sound that had to do with their teeth. They find it difficult. So you see them
struggling. Are you there? The network issues.
saying something like think. Okay, now dental fricative, and that's the sound still made by digraph TH, and the sound goes the. So when you ask children to produce that sound, still because of their teeth and maybe some other factors, they find it difficult to produce that kind of sound, okay? So you see, they would end up producing the as d. So when you tell them to pronounce words like there correctly, there, like go there, you find them saying something like go there. You understand? Oh, go there. Okay, so they pronounce it as if they are pronouncing sound D. That's the sound for letter D. All right.
But
so
I
that's
want to,
that for,
but I want to jump in real quick. But you also see adults mention things that way. They don't think about I don't know what I don't want to use the technical, I don't know the technical name you've given it, but you mentioned, but the use of TH, you know, it comes in two forms. In my early days, I used something to demarcate them, to differentiate them. It's like what some people would call associated learning. So when I learn things, and it's difficult for me to hold them, to grasp them in my mind, I keep forgetting. I look for something to associate them with. Now, if you take a look at the sounds, the sound that you made, it has the phonetic symbol is like theta.
Yes, please.
Right.
That's a theta sound.
Yes, and then there's another TH sound like that has the D form, which is like them. And then the sound is like a D and there's a cross.
Sure.
See, for me, that's the way anyone that has to do it. So when I was trying to understand phonetic sound, I just say anyone that has a D sound has this sound. Anyone that has a T sound has a theta sound. So for me, that's the way I associated them to help me. But to my question is, the thing you mentioned about children, you find it also in adults.
Sure. But you know, for the adults, if you teach them, they tend to learn faster and grasp. Okay. But for children, they are still having this difficulty.
Struggle.
Except, they have that struggle, except over time, they would now get used to it. Okay.
All right, great stuff. That's good to know. So we understand that when we see that in our kids. You belong to the ADCN, that is the Association of Diction Coaches of Nigeria. Now, how is that professional body? Now we know we have professional bodies, but some go from average to very good, you know. And so this body, how has it helped in shaping the standards of elocution and public speaking in Nigeria? Do you have an idea?
Yes, the ADCN, like you rightly put, the Association of Diction Coaches of Nigeria, have actually promoted elocution for excellence. You know, from time to time, they organize trainings, workshops, seminars, and things like that to help us to, help us have a uniform activity for all diction coaches in Nigeria. So they've actually done their best in promoting elocution for excellence.
All right, so let me drag you back to the street. We know in Nigeria, we speak English, right? But
Yeah.
we also have this thing where sometimes we feel like, and I say that even from my personal experience, there was a time I never cared. Like, English is not my father's language. I don't care. But that's what we use in schools and everything. So that's a question I just jumped into my head. Say, how do you get people? Because I used to be there until I had a teacher. I said it on different platforms. One means Mr. Jones, who saw the potential I had at the time as a kid, as a young man. In my as a young man, I would say I was less than 20 at the time. I was about 17 or 18, and he saw this and he emphasized the need to pay attention to language that's going to change my life. And I shrugged and I said, "Well, I don't care." But that moment changed me. It changed a whole lot. How do you deal with people when you find people and they feel, well, what's the essence in stressing all these rules about English pronunciation? People would maybe give a heed, may would probably heed to structure, the use of verb, nouns, and all of that. But when you come to the proper pronunciation of words, we tend to find people say, "What's that? Just say it. I mean, do I have to pronounce it correctly?" Do you meet people who say things like that? How do you kindly get them to see the importance of paying attention to enunciation, pronouncing words correctly and clearly?
Sure, I meet a lot of them, and I help them to know that if you are speaking or communicating in English language, then you should use the language properly. Just like you're
Okay.
communicating in your local language, it wouldn't be nice that you don't pronounce the words correctly. So if
Mm,
you say you want to speak English language, then you have to speak and pronounce words correctly. And then I tell them
okay.
that speaking right boosts their leadership. It makes them have it also boosts career growth. It helps in
Okay.
growing your career. Okay. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So, and I also tell them that speaking right is actually putting food on people's tables. So why are you there criticizing when people are making money out of it? Okay.
Yeah.
So speaking right makes you stand out. Okay. It makes you to be respected anywhere you are.
Mm,
Okay, and makes people to take you seriously. Do you
yes.
understand?
True, true. That's deep. You already answered the other question I had in mind. I wanted to ask you, say, how does this become a game changer in people's profession and in their lives? You said it makes them stand out, makes them more confident, and also boosts career growth. I would chip in something. I did I okay, I think I read it somewhere. I'm sure it's from the book. Was it The Art of Public Speaking by Dale Carnegie? I can't remember exactly, but somebody said something. There's this normal statement where a regular common statement where people say anything that anybody can do, you can also do it. That kind of stuff. So, but there's a twist there which stuck with me, which is you may not be able to do what anybody does, but you can attempt it. That puts that's like a frame to say I may not become like XYZ, but I can attempt to be there. Now if I bring it to what we're discussing, I think it's important for us to get our friends and listeners and people to understand that if you speak if you want to communicate in English language, whilst some people may not speak like native speakers, you can attempt to speak, you can attempt to improve.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly,
I think,
exactly. You
yeah, I
can
think that
attempt to be
helps.
groomed.
hmm We never stop improving. You just keep getting better as you meet
True,
more people. You
true.
pronounce words, and I sometimes I speak on stage and I pronounce some certain words wrongly, and then almost instantly I realize, man, this word it's a wrong pronunciation, and it sticks with me, and it begins to damage my flow. And then I hear this voice say, "No, that mistake is done. Leave it. Just move on." But you've learned from that. So I get people to see that no matter how good you are, no matter how far you've gone in life, you will still make mistakes. But the ability to understand that you will still make mistakes, learn from that, and improve, that's what makes a difference between who succeeds and who doesn't. All right.
Exactly.
So, and I'm sure you meet people who say, I love to speak, but I have stage fright. I have speaking anxiety. It may not be stage fright, but I have social phobia. That's what some people call it, social phobia. I can't talk to the next person. What are some practical strategies that can help people to overcome those fears in your experience?
Okay, first of all, you need to prepare very well for any presentation you're going to be giving. So good preparation helps a whole lot. And then practice, practice, practice before going out to give that speech. The importance of practice cannot be overemphasized. Okay. I also advise people to speak and look into the mirror, you know, watch yourself speaking. All right.
Mm,
Sometimes to record your voice and listen to it later. When you do that, you'll be able to hear some of the pronunciations you didn't do correctly, and then you would correct yourself. Also, listen to good speakers and
mhm.
read good books. That would help in improving your speech and also giving you enough vocabulary to play around with.
True. I might also add for those who say, I can't read books, I listen to podcasts. It helps.
Sure.
I
Yeah.
found that to be a very valuable way because you may not be able to read 10 books in a month. But I can almost guarantee that if you do it regularly, 1 hour per day, you probably would read, if you listen to podcasts every day for 1 hour, you probably would read 5 books in a month. two
Sure.
hours or maybe depending on the volume of the book. Say, if you're listening to
Exactly.
this, yeah, if you have issues getting books and reading them, I love the brown pages. Just read them. But if you're not like me, you go to the gym or you are commuting from one end to another, stop scrolling and watching YouTube videos and TikTok dances.
That
Put your
wouldn't that
earphone.
wouldn't give you anything. You wouldn't gain anything from them.
Just
Nothing to
listen.
gain from such things.
Just listen to books. Well,
Yeah.
for I know some people will come and say, "Oh, what's wrong with TikTok?" And we're not saying anything wrong with TikTok or YouTube.
No,
I
no,
think the
no.
metaphor here, the message here is, how do you spend your time? Do you spend your time watching or listening to things that won't add value to you, or would you rather read books? Because reading books is like hearing from people that have lived before you, or are still living in your time but have another experience in life that you probably wouldn't have had if you had not read their books. It's that simple. Okay.
Sure.
So, yeah. So, Abigail,
Yes, please.
people say, I want to speak, but it doesn't matter if I pronounce words correctly or not. It doesn't matter what my accent is like. What do you say to such people?
I tell them that pronunciation is very important. Like
Hmm.
I've always said, you want to speak the English language, pronounce words correctly, or like we've discussed, try to go close to the native speakers, try to speak as good as the native speakers, even though we may not be as good as they are, but let's just try to be close to what they are doing. And it will give you an edge. It will actually give you an edge. I want to relate a little experience at this
Please go
point.
ahead. Please go ahead.
Okay. So during the corona, teachers were out of job.
Yeah.
There wasn't any conventional schools going on. Okay, so teachers resorted to home lessons. I
Okay.
don't do home lessons, but because I was idle at that point, I wasn't going to school and all that. Someone linked me up to a home lesson, and the family invited me. I thought I was the only person that
Oh,
was
you didn't
invited.
know you were going for an interview.
I didn't know I was going for an interview. But by the time I got there, I saw 5 other persons
Yeah.
Me, 6. And these other persons were way older than I am. I
Yeah.
know I saw a school proprietor
Okay.
there and some of the teachers. So yeah, I was the last to be interviewed. So we all sat down where they asked us to wait, and then they were going in one after the other. So I was the last person to go in. By the time I got in, I met the couple. The interview was for, they actually wanted an English teacher for their son. So
Okay.
I met the couple. And by the time I started speaking, just saying good morning
They say, oh no, this is
in
it. This is it. This is done.
uh-huh, just saying good morning in the right way captured their interest. And by the
Yeah.
time they asked me one or two questions and I finished saying what I wanted to say, the lady or the wife looked at the husband, and the husband looked at the wife and said, I think we would go for this person.
Mm.
Do you
Right there
understand?
and then.
So it's not like I was more intelligent than the rest of them that came for the
Hmm.
interview, but
Yeah.
just that's communication power. Okay, they were so impressed at the way I spoke. They were so impressed at everything they saw, and the woman said, "I think we would go for you."
True.
I gave them my prize. And the woman told me that even though mine was higher than that of the
The
others that
others.
came, that she prefers I handle the son's lesson. So
Mm.
that's what I'm talking about. That good pronunciation, good enunciation takes you to where you would never imagine you would be. And that was how I got that home lesson.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
that home lesson sustained me throughout that period of the corona and until we were out of corona.
That's a good example. Wow. COVID-19, that period was hellish.
It
This is what
was.
you just yeah, what you just said reminds me that I think this story I want to tell you now briefly. It happened maybe about 25 years ago, if I'm not
Wow.
mistaken. Now, I had met Jones, who told me to take English language seriously. And Jones he was really into, back in the day, we used to call this test of orals. If you're preparing for O level, in
Yes.
Nigeria, test of
Mm.
orals. And then he was so into it. He would tell us, no, don't say bucket, say bucket. Don't say pocket, say pocket. We didn't know the rules, and then we started making fun. If you pronounce something wrong, we would just say, hey, say pockets. And we'll all laugh. But as kids, as young men and women, young chaps who were just joking, but it's stuck. Now, I was in school and I had to work to also take care of myself. So I was teaching in some of these extramural classes. We call them lessons and all of that. You had
Yeah.
them then. There was one at, I don't know if you know this, close to my one's a place called St. Andrews. There's a school, big school,
Yes.
St.
Yes.
Andrews. So we had somebody a man running this extra classes there, and they said they needed English teachers. So I went there, and we had other people exactly the way we had people who had doctors, master's degree holders, and I was an undergraduate. So I said, well, let's just first at that young age, I had this thing about if it works, it works. If it doesn't, I just go on. I wasn't stuck to anything. So I went in, a young man with swag and all of that. If it works, fine. So the first person came, second person. I didn't know what they had taught them, but I knew something, Abigail. If you are teaching a class in Nigeria, in my experience, and you want the class to love you in terms of English language, I think I might be wrong, but structure is the wrong place to go because we all hate verbs, irregular
Yes.
verbs, the
Lexis and
application of verbs to
structure.
letters. We just
Yeah.
hate it. We don't like those laws. But
Yeah.
something fun. It was a sales speech. It was show them if the children like, if the students like it, that's fine. If they don't, now we are talking about it's not a regular school. You're talking about people from different walks of life and different families, and they're just unruly sometimes. I walked into the class. And I just went, instead of teaching lexic structure and all of that, I just went there and said, I wrote the word bucket and I said, pronounce it. And all of them
No.
said bucket, pocket. They said pocket,
Mm.
market. They were just, and I said, no, this is how to pronounce it. Remember, we had no internet. Those were not the
True.
days of social media and internet.
Yeah.
It was what the
Yeah.
teacher says that matters. And I said, this
Yeah.
is how it's pronounced. This is it. You don't say pocket, you say pocket. You don't say market, you say market. And all of them said no. Wow, this is exciting. And the whole class went, they ran agog actually. Like they were just crazy. So as I was going downstairs to meet the owner of the business, they came down with me and said, "Sir, this is the person, this man, this is the one, this is the teacher we want. All of us will
And
lead."
imagine.
I'm telling you. So what's the point? I'm not sure I was the most intelligent, but I struck a chord because of the way I sounded at the time. It goes to buttress the story you said earlier, which is what comes out of you from your mouth, what comes out of your mouth means a lot.
Exactly.
Can make or break you as per that particular chance. So why
True.
wouldn't you invest in that? Okay. People should look for you and make sure that they get trained and become more
True.
confident.
That's true.
They should look for you wherever you are so that they can learn from what you have.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's a thing I'm thinking now. We speak, but what about voice? How we use our voice, because it's really powerful if you're able to modulate, use the right tone. How does this help with audience engagement?
Yeah, that's talking about intonation.
Yeah.
Intonation, I would say, is the rhythm of spoken English. You know,
There she goes.
uh, you know, let me tell you, intonation does to speaking what punctuation does to writing. So,
Okay.
so when
Could
you
you
have that
say
at
that
the
again? Say that again. That's a good punchline. You can
okay,
say,
I first of all said that intonation is the rhythm of spoken English. And
okay.
I also added that intonation does to speaking or to spoken English what
Okay.
punctuation does to written English.
Okay.
You
Beautiful.
understand? So
Yeah, I
exactly
do.
what punctuation does to written English is what intonation does to spoken English. So when you have a good command of modulation, intonation, you rise at some point, you fall at other point. You have this rise, fall.
I'm even feeling it now, the way you're going, right? So my heart is just going.
Stallone, you not allow me. Okay, so when you rise at some point, you fall at other points, it makes your spoken English interesting. But when you just sound flat, you go monotonous, and then it will sound like someone is listening to the voice of a generator that is on, okay,
Mhm.
just one way, then your spoken English
Even
wouldn't.
sometimes the generator fluctuates if it has issues. You know.
It's true.
Sorry for jumping. Go ahead. You're really passing something important.
Yeah. So that's what intonation does. That's what intonation does. Modulation. It's very important. So apart from the fact that you're pronouncing words correctly, back it up with intonation and then observe other rudiments of spoken English. You would see that your accent becomes neutral. You have
Mm.
this world-class neutral accent that
Yeah.
would
See behind
take
it.
you anywhere.
Yeah, see there. You say you can have a neutral accent. Tell
Neutral
me about that. What
accent.
does that mean?
Yeah, it's an accent that you can take anywhere. Do you
Mm.
understand? It's an
Yes.
accent that doesn't connect you to a particular tribe, that doesn't connect you to
Uh,
your mother tongue. Do you
mm.
understand? It's an
Yeah.
accent that is understood everywhere,
Globally.
globally. Yes,
That's
please.
powerful. So you have a neutral accent is a global accent.
True.
It's beautiful when people can't tell where you come from by the way you speak.
Exactly.
Hmm. So your business is to help people to harness the power of their voices.
True.
become more confident. So can you tell us more about your approach and the programs you offer? How do you help people? Do you have programs, products, packages that with which you help people to gain that confidence? Because that's the essence of this show. Get people to say, listen, you've got a voice, you've got a message. Someone is out there waiting to hear your message. If we can help you get that message out, that'd be fine. So how do you help people gain that power?
Okay, so once they come on board, we try to help them know the sound patterns of English language.
Okay.
Teach them the 44 sounds that make up spoken English. Because every word we speak is a combination of these sounds. So once they are able to gain mastery over the 44 sounds of the English sound system, then they would be able to read transcriptions. And once you're able to read transcriptions, you're able to pronounce words correctly. Apart from that, we teach them other things that have, that make up good spoken English, things like the intonation we've talked about. I just talked about rising and falling. The question is, when do we rise? When do we fall? At what point should we rise while speaking? At what point should we fall? These are the things we teach. We also teach other things like linking our words in company, assimilation, weak forms of words, so many things put together, public speaking, and a whole lot. So when you come on board, these will be exposed to you. We do lots of practice session because it's a spoken language thing. Therefore, you need to practice a whole lot. You need to do some videos, do some voice notes, and a whole lot. It's all packed in one.
Good stuff. Good stuff. So it's like driving. I use this example. I've used this many times and I love it. You cannot learn how to drive by reading. You've got to get in the car, behind the steering, and get afraid.
True.
You must get through that process. That's how speaking is. It's like saying, the best way to learn how to speak is to speak. No two ways about it. But the road becomes shorter when you have a coach, when you have a mentor, because they've seen your fears and they can help you to go across that bridge. Is there any success story that comes to your mind, people or the person you've worked with and you feel, well, we took this person from here to here. And what was the experience like?
A lot of success stories, lots of it. But I just want to talk about one person who, before she came on board, she used to be very shy. Like she can't stand before an audience. Very shy because she lacks the skills to speak when it comes to public speaking. She did not know how to pronounce her words correctly. She couldn't stand the audience, because of stage fright and all of that. But when she got enrolled in our academy, or so to speak, we started from the scratch. We started from the foundation. We taught her everything she needed to know. And then she also followed us to the classroom, watched us teach, and from there, she gained experience. And today, she's one of our best instructors that we have. Teaching kids and adults and even people of all ages.
Okay, so you teach people, you train people, I like to use the word, you train people who become instructors too.
True, we train people who become instructors, that's right.
That's beautiful, really beautiful. So they learn and then they get to the mastery point where they can also teach other people.
Teach others. So you could call it training the trainers.
Yes, that's beautiful. So what advice would you have for parents who've got children and they really want their children to develop strong communication skills?
Foundation is very important. They should start from the foundation level to help their children to embrace the speak right culture. Okay? They should expose their children to watching good television programs, educative ones. Okay, it's not all about
All these kids. Yeah, all the, I'm
exactly.
laughing.
It's not about that. Yeah, they should help their children to be studiers. Okay, they should
Yeah.
help to be interested in always reading, studying, pronouncing words, and then of course when these children come home to tell them, this is how our teacher said we should pronounce this word. Parents shouldn't shut them up.
Hmm. All right. That
Yeah,
makes sense.
yeah, they shouldn't shut them up because that's what experience shows that that's what some parents do. They'll be like, speak the way I can understand, speak the
Hmm.
way we used to speak, okay, and all
Yeah.
that. So they shouldn't, kill their zeal. They should always encourage them to do it right. And when these children start from the foundation stage to do these things right, you would see that they would grow up to become adults that are good speakers of the English language, eloquent ones.
Yeah. Would you, there's this argument that miss, when people miss the foundation at that early age, when people miss the foundation and of the foundation for communicating correctly and strong, it takes a lot more for them to catch up. Is that correct?
Well, not totally correct. These things have to do with interests, okay? Once you're
Okay.
interested in something, you have a flair for it, you just want to do all you can to make sure you get it right. Once you do that, you would get it right. After all, adults also learn and they are doing it right.
Mm.
Most of them did not have very good foundations, but they are all actually doing it right at this point. So it has to do with interest. Once you're
But
interested in something, you would do it and do it well.
yeah, but then it takes more effort.
Yeah, it takes efforts, but it's worth it.
Mm. Because you find people that even as adults, it becomes difficult for them to, no matter what you, well, I won't say no matter what you do, but it's hard for them to construct the language correctly. They, even when they grow in their career and they get through, they get to executive levels, even when they talk, you still see the crossfires because
Hmm.
that foundation was not laid.
Wasn't laid. But like I
Mm,
said, with interest, practice,
mhm.
seriousness, you know, they can at least get to a level that is better than where they are.
Yeah. So if parents don't want their children to struggle when they become adults, it's good to make sure you help them lay the foundation.
True, they should start
Because-
now.
Yeah,
Start
because I think
immediately.
immediately, because I think that for you, I would use the word you're breezing through because you've got a good foundation and you have this automatic attraction to speaking, to learning more how to speak. I would say that I had the same similar background because yes, I used to be shy. When I tell people I used to be shy, I said no, it's still not. It's not. I used to be really shy, especially when I was in my primary school days. And my father helped me to read and helped me to start speaking in public at a very early age. Even at that, the shyness will come from time to time. The fear of I don't want to
Yeah,
say the wrong thing. I don't want people
yeah.
to judge me. It will keep coming back and forth. But at some point in my life, with learning, coaching, and grooming myself, I figured that I got to a point where if you woke me up and asked me the question, Salon, what would you like to do if you were not going to be paid, if there was no money involved? I would say I love to teach. And what would you love to teach? I think at some point it just came to me. I love public speaking. I just get on the stage. Of course,
Mm.
it came with time of coaching, learning. I've been coached by different people around the world. It depends on what I'm looking for. Sometimes it's about using the stage, sometimes about storytelling, sometimes it's about courage. Different people I meet for different reasons, and get them, hire them in some cases, sometimes to form a relationship, and I learn from them. And over time, the confidence has grown to say, I can get on the stage. Even if I miss my lines or even if something goes wrong, I can find my way back to where I want where I want to be. I remember I had one coach once who told me, one, not like a coach, but a senior friend. He was a coach of mine. He told me that
Okay.
whenever you're going to do a presentation, have four sets. You have the one that you send via email. You have the one back in the day in your USB stick. Then you
Okay.
have one on your laptop, a copy on your laptop. Or no, you have one printed that's hard copy in case
Hard
there's.
copy.
And he said there's one that you should not forget. And that brings us back to the earlier, one of the earlier things you mentioned, which is one of the things you mentioned earlier, which is, can you hear me?
I can hear you clearly.
Yeah, I think I got call coming in and then
Okay.
so, and one of the things you mentioned, which is practice. And he said, no matter what you do, know your presentation. So if everything fails, you can still present. So
Mm.
it comes down to the foundation is really strong. Now, I'm going to ask you a few other questions before we round off. If you were to coach a public figure on their speech, who would you pick? And this is tricky.
Stallone, the truth of the matter is that I wouldn't want to mention any name here. But I
I said I
just
was going
want,
to. I
I
said I
wouldn't
was going
want,
to put you on this. Just mention my name.
no, I can't mention your name because I know you're a good public speaker.
Yeah.
I don't have anything to coach you on. I wouldn't want to be specific, but I know that a good number of them are not actually doing this public speaking thing properly. Okay,
Yeah.
so I'll just advise them to get themselves personal coaches. I'll be able to coach them so that they would make good public presentations,
Mm.
and represent themselves very well. That's
And know
just what
when
I
to
want to
and know
say.
when to fall and when to stand. That's the
Exactly.
beauty. Sometimes when I watch people speak and they shout all through, they
Mm-hmm.
shout, shout, and shout and shout all
Mm.
through.
It
I've
doesn't
watched,
make sense.
yeah, I've watched public speakers that actually just pace it, talk from one end of the platform to the other end and back, and I'm asking myself, what's the movement about? Because I'm
Mm.
hoping, because what I want to see is you're moving purposefully, you are modulating purposefully, you're using stories, you raise your voice sometimes, you want to say something important, you bring your voice down to connect to
True.
the audience, pull them out. It's like dancing, it's like music. That's the
That's
way it
why
should.
I said it's the rhythm of
Yeah,
spoken
exactly.
English.
It should be rhythmic. And sometimes people just fire away and they just, I don't know, but it's tiring sometimes. But like you said, you should look for help. So what is one small daily habit that you think that can improve a person's speech? Because whoever watches this video or this session should be able to say, what is that one thing or two things that I could do to help improve my speech?
Read aloud a few minutes every day.
Okay.
It works like magic.
Hmm.
It helps with articulation, pronunciation, voice control, and everything. So
Okay.
read aloud, few minutes every day. It helps a
Hmm.
lot. Yeah.
Okay.
And then I want to add, there is what is called vocal warm-up exercise. So once in a
What's
while,
that?
maybe twice or thrice a week, you do some vocal warm-up exercises. Now,
Okay.
these vocal warm-up exercises help to free your organs of speech, free
Hmm.
your diaphragm, and other organs of speech and make them flexible. Okay.
Hmm.
So if you are someone that practices vocal warm-up exercises from time to time, you would see that your spoken English would come up effortlessly. You speak
Hmm.
well. Yeah.
Vocal warm up. Do you need to be in a quiet place in your room?
True.
Or how
Yeah.
do you do it?
Yes, you can do it. It's usually advisable you do it in a quiet place where no one is watching you. Otherwise, people watching you will think something is wrong with you.
All right. Do you get
Yeah.
to read something out loud or do you just make sounds?
Yeah, it comes in different phases. There are
Okay.
times you just need to do some exercises.
Okay.
Like sometimes you'll be
Yeah.
asked to open your mouth wide.
Okay.
Sometimes you'll be asked to roll your tongue,
Hmm.
a tongue
Okay.
stamp. That's what it's called.
Okay.
Sometimes you'll be asked to do some tongue twisters, you
Hmm.
know.
Okay.
Aha. Sometimes you'll be asked to hit your chest a little, you
Okay.
know, your ribs, your back, and things like that. They are
Hmm.
all, it's, yeah. So when you do,
Interesting.
so when you do things like that, it helps to free your organs of speech so that
Yeah.
any word or any sound you're producing will come out effortlessly, and that will help you to pronounce words correctly.
Yes. And the good thing is that when you put so much work into yourself to groom yourself, your voice, everything, when it's time to speak, the confidence just comes up. Like somebody's
Exactly.
like that's a
Exactly.
statement I love. When you get on the stage, it's not the time to practice.
No, no.
Because when you get on the stage, the conscious part goes off. It's a subconscious, what you built in that kicks in, like let's
True.
flow.
Yeah.
You know. So give time to yourself, train yourself, groom yourself. Okay. Now, if people want to learn all of these beautiful things you have shared today, where can they find you?
I am just one phone call away. So you
Okay.
call 080-3874-6574. You either call
Okay.
or send a WhatsApp message. You can also see me on Facebook, Abigail Wilson on Facebook. So you could send a DM or Facebook Messenger. You send a message via Facebook Messenger. I
Okay.
am also on Instagram, Speak Right with Abby Wills.
Okay. All right. So they'll find you there. And then we're going to see how this works out. We're hoping that we're going to get more people get to see what you do. And the most important thing is that they get helped. They get helped. Now, where you are, you train people, you help people, but let's be human here. Has there ever been a time when you were on stage or you were delivering a class or a lesson and boom, you made a mistake in terms of speaking while speaking? Has there ever been a time? How did you approach such setbacks?
Like you said, we are all humans, so we can make mistakes. So there are times that I would make a mistake in pronunciation. I'll
Okay.
mispronounce a word because no matter how knowledgeable you are,
Okay.
you cannot know the correct pronunciation of all the words in the English dictionary. That's not
Mhm.
possible. Okay,
Okay.
we're only making conscious efforts. And like one coach I know used to say, you cannot be more Catholic than the Pope. So
Okay.
we can't do better than the original speakers of the language.
All right.
Always make mistakes. So at times when such mistakes come, I'll just pause for a while and then I'll continue. Sometimes the audience wouldn't know that I made a mistake.
True.
I
True.
am the one that would know that I made a mistake. But even
Yeah.
if they know, I could either correct that word when I'm using it again. I'll call the word correctly when I'm using
Mm.
it again, or I just move on. I know that the audience will always forgive me because they know that we're all imperfect. But that goes
Yeah.
to tell us that goes to tell us that there is always room for improvement, that
Okay.
nobody knows it all. We would
Mm.
always learn. We are lifelong learners. There is this
Mm.
quote that I like about teaching or teachers. It says that a teacher is a senior student anxious to help his juniors. You get? So
Mm.
it goes to show that teachers are also learning. They are
Learn.
students. It's just that they are senior students. So I know that I'm also learning. There is
Yeah.
never Learning never ends. There is never an
Mm.
end to learning as long as we are alive. So as long
Yeah.
as we're learning, we would continue to learn. And if we make
Mm.
mistakes, we correct ourselves and move on. But the
Good.
mistakes should be reduced to its barest minimum.
Yeah, but that's the way it is. The more you learn, the lesser mistakes you make. It's like,
Yes.
yeah, it's like in my world where we communicate, I talk with business executives, leaders, and all of that. I figured it's very clear. If you have issues with communicating with your team and we have a program, as a program, as you progress, you find that your communication becomes better. If you have, because what we also do is we facilitate, we teach business leaders and team leaders how to facilitate meetings. People hold meetings forever, and the meetings are just useless. I want to use that word. When I mean useless, they are not a good use of people's time, because they just keep on talking and talking, and decisions are hardly made. But if you
Yeah.
learn how to facilitate, you
Yeah.
know this is where we are, this is where we want to get to. But in between, what are the things we're going to do so that everybody is carried along to this point? So we teach business leaders and team leaders the same thing. And we've also found that the more they remain in the program, as a program, if it's a 2 week program or it's a 3 week program, a 10 week program, the closer we get to the end, the better everyone or people who take this seriously become. The point I'm making is public speaking, elocution, communication, we're all students. But the more conscious we are at practicing and learning, the better we become at
Exactly.
implementing, and the mistakes continue to reduce, begin to go down. And more importantly, it's not about making the mistakes, like it's more about having the confidence to get out of that. Because when you make mistakes, when you're
Mm-hmm.
delivering speeches, it's like you are held there, you are stuck.
Mm.
The confidence to get out of that place and move on. Oh, that is a different conversation. So
True.
it's practice over time, learning that gets you to the point where you feel I could make mistakes on stage. I could make mistakes while talking to this person, even it's a one-to-one conversation, but I can
Mm.
get out of it because I can communicate myself. I can talk myself out of it in love, empathy, respect. Before we go, one last question. If you were to sit down, I ask this to all my guests. If you were to sit down for dinner or for lunch with any three communicators, dead or alive, who would that be?
I wouldn't say three. I'll just talk about one.
Okay.
Yes, and that is the person of Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. I don't know if you know that lady.
I know her. Why? Is there anyone that doesn't know her?
Okay, so I love her ability to blend storytelling with powerful social commentary. I love
Okay.
that. So I like to ask her how she does it. You
And
know, she
she's
really makes
fearless.
powerful speeches, and she has a strong command of the English language. You know,
Hmm.
so I really love Chimamanda, and I would really love
Okay.
to have dinner with her if possible.
So you won't give me three. You're giving me one. This one must be really important to you.
Yes, very important to me. I really love that lady.
All
You
right.
know,
Great.
I like
Great
the
stuff.
fact that, you know, she makes us to understand that um elocution and speaking right is not all about rolling the tongue,
Mm-hmm.
speaking through the nose,
Mm-hmm.
or faking accents.
Okay.
You know, that's what a lot of people do. They
Mm.
fake accent, they sound so artificial, and
Yeah.
it irritates some
It's
person
irritating sometimes.
sometimes.
Yeah.
Okay. Or they roll the tongue. You see, every word they pronounce begin to have the sound.
Yeah. So
Or they
I'm talking to you.
aha, you know, or they speak as if they are speaking through the nose. So every word has a nasal sound, you know.
Yeah.
So things like that do not really impress me.
It takes
Okay.
away from the speech. It takes away from the person,
Take
actually.
exactly. So but for Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, when you listen to her, you know that yes, she's really doing a good job when it comes to spoken English and public speaking.
Mm. Beautiful. All right. Thank you very much. It's been so beautiful having this conversation with you today after so long a time of not seeing you. But I've been seeing what you've been doing in the background, and we hope that you'll have more chances to help more people to become more confident in their communication and to reach out to more people. Right?
Thank you so much, Stallone. I'm super excited to be here today. And I count this a privilege. Truly, I'm really, really happy. Thank you very much, Stallone.
We're glad
Thank
to have
you.
you for you to have shared your wisdom and insight with us. All right
Thank
then.
you.
Take care of you. Bye bye.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bye,
Bye.
Stallone.
Bye bye.